Joining us now for more on this is Global Affairs expert Collins Weke in Brussels. We also have AJK Okpa, who's also a Global Affairs analyst based in Dallas, Texas. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. I'm being told that I only have... Yes, Happy New Year to you too, AJK. I'm being told I only have you. But Grant, so AJK, does this act grant the U.S. the liberty to invade any country and take over its affairs without repercussions, by the way, or does it risk setting a dangerous precedence?
Yeah, good question. All of the above, can apply depending on who is interpreting. But this is not the first time it's happened. If you remember, Manuel Noriega of Panama, was at a point, he was, arrested and, taken because of a similar charge about possessing or encouraging narcotics into the U.S., and he did time in Miami. Hello?
Yes, I'm here, AJK. We can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. And he did time in Miami, and then later on was released. I always tell people, read a book called Overthrow to see how America has done this, way back in the 20s, 30s, and nobody did anything. But now in a global village where we have instant messaging, everybody jumps up and down and says, say what they have to say. But America planned this, America did it. The reaction is going to be, positive and negative. But the point is today, a president who had an opportunity to do right first for his country, instead wasted time, pointing finger at U.S. and beating his chest. At the end of the day, his own military couldn't even stand up to him, stand up to defend him. And then even the China, and of course, nobody who cares about Iran, even China, that a few hours, some Chinese delegation a few hours were in Caracas, what did they do? Russia, they all had the intelligence. What did they do? Did they send their own military resources to go and defend him? So now they are talking, it's medicine after death. What needs to happen is the most important thing is for presidents of countries to first prioritize their own interests.
But AJK, just a second, real quick. Let me introduce also, we have Collins Weke joining us. I'll be asking him a few questions, but I want to take you on something that you didn't answer, and I asked whether this makes it legal, especially noting that China, Iran, and some other world leaders have told that this does not make legal sense.
Well, who defines what is legal and what is not illegal? America decided to do it, and they did it.
So that seems to be the problem. That seems to be the problem. America is making these decisions all by itself without ratification from the rest of the world. It's just going ahead and making these rules. So with what stands now with international law, is it legal or isn't it? Or maybe I should ask Collins Weke. Let me put you on standby for a second, AJK. Collins Weke, you're welcome. Thank you very much. We just asked AJK if by international standards, what law exactly makes this legal for America to jump into Venezuela and abduct, in quote, its sitting president?
Nothing on earth makes this legal for the United States to invade Venezuela in the manner that they did. This act does not legally grant the United States carte blanche to invade or govern other countries. Under international law, particularly the UN Charter, sovereignty and non-intervention remains fundamental principles. There are no two ways around this. However, the political signal it sends is what concerns many observers. When a superpower stretches legal interpretation, and let's underline the word stretches, because that's essentially what the United States has done here, to justify interventionist pressure, it risks normalizing exceptionalism. This is exceptionalism in the highest order, where power, rather than law, sets the rule. That is the dangerous precedent, not immediate invasion, but the erosion of shared norms. In a world already strained by conflicts in Ukraine, Gaza, and the Sahel, weakening international restraint mechanisms could encourage others to act similarly. Long-term stability depends not on who is strongest, but on who shows restraint within the rules-based order.
All right, Mr.
The
Wake.
time is gone and buried when the survival of the fittest was the norm. Not anymore.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Wake. Let me come back to you now, Ejike. Ejike, you've heard Mr. Wake and his submission here regarding the legality of it. But let's look at the geopolitical relationships between the countries and allied countries. How might China's demand for Maduro's release complicate U.S. influence in Latin America now? And how or where would the allies of these countries, the superpowers, China, Russia, and the rest, lie with these complications going on?
Again, I want to preface what I'm saying. This is not the first time it happened. We did it in Panama, and everybody screamed at the end of the day. Noriega did time in Miami, and then released it, went home and died. So China can make all the noise. Anybody can say what they say and define their own legal and illegality stuff. But what are you going to do to U.S.? You know, didn't U.S. come into and have some airstrikes in Nigeria? That is, some Nigerians liked it, some Nigerians didn't. You know, Tinubu responded. Instead, he issued a statement, and right now he's not even in the country. So, look, you know, you take care of your country, nobody's going to come and bother you. America has the right to do what America did. If China doesn't like it, China should not respond in the way to tell America you shouldn't do that, and then we'll see what happens. I'm not going to get into this speculation or what is or what is not. The world has never been what the world is. You know, superpowers do what they do. You know, other countries build alliances and they seek ways to have a relationship that normalizes things. So that's what it is. Again, like we say in Dallas or Texas, it is what it is.
Okay.
So it's medicine after death, after, you know, with all these other reactions. I mean, we really don't care.
Okay. So the U.S. President Donald Trump has said that there might be more coming. He's mentioned Colombia, Mexico, and I think the semi-autonomous Danish territory of Greenland. That, you know, these are speculations or these are just suggestions, but we've seen this before and it's come to fruition, especially in the case of Venezuela. But let's talk about governance now. In the case of governance, the United States authorities, the president has said that they will be in charge of governance inside of Venezuela. I don't know if in modern times this has ever happened anywhere, if there's been any precedence. We've seen other issues with other countries, Libya, Iran, or rather Iraq, but it wasn't in this format where they could take over the country's governance as it is currently. Delcy Rodríguez in power now currently. Mr. Wike, what are we seeing here if there is that pushback for governance from the United States?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing, let's start with China's position because it significantly complicates, U.S. influence in Latin America. You know, when you talk about other countries, being next in line to be invaded. Because, it reframes Venezuela, from a bilateral U.S. issue into a multipolar geopolitical context. Beijing is not merely defending Maduro. I think it's important to get that right. It is defending the principle that regime change should not be externally imposed. That is the bottom line for China and for many, democratic world. For many Latin American states with memories of Cold War era interventions, this resonates deeply. China's stance strengthens its image as, a counterweight to Washington and reinforces its growing economic and diplomatic footprint in that entire region. In effect, U.S. pressure on Venezuela risks pushing Caracas and possibly others further into China's strategic orbit, weakening Washington's leverage, rather than consolidating it as, Trump may have envisaged.
Okay, then. Ejike, you heard that, and coming to you now, is this about narcotics? It's beginning to seem not like so. It's beginning to seem like it's about oil, or it's beginning to seem like it's about petrol, actually. Oil dollars. It's beginning to seem like the United States wants back what was it from years ago. Now, in line with this and the complications that this brings, where do you think other world powers will start to place their alliances? And how do you think this will affect America and also the dollar in the long run? Especially when it comes to trade, with the dollar.
Look, you could trade in whatever currency you want. You know, if you want to trade in naira or pesos or cedis, that's up to you. You know, trade is a bilateral agreement. You know, so it's for the exchange of goods and services. So if they want to accept your currency, you know, go for it. But the point here is that America looked at this guy. It wasn't even done yesterday. When Obama was in office, Obama issued a statement against Maduro, saying he's a threat to the hemisphere, and we're going to do something. When Biden came in, there was similar intelligence on him, but Biden didn't do anything. And then Trump stepped up and said, "You gotta get out of it." Offered him an opportunity to resign. He didn't, and they did what they did. So again, we cannot go back. Hindsight is the best teacher, but sometimes hindsight don't even teach you anything because people just get insensitive and have ego in place, and then after the fact, everybody starts screaming. The guy is in jail today, or is going to be arraigned today, and he's going to face the charges, and I can assure you he's going to do time. And whether you like it or not, China didn't do it. You know, China had intelligence, or if China is all China, you know, portrays itself to do, China should have had its own military people there, so that, hey, if America comes, we're going to defend you. But they didn't. Russia didn't do the same thing. So, you know, what is the trade? You talk about oil. Texas produces more oil per day. Venezuela doing is about 1 million barrels a day. Texas produces 5-point-something million. Yes, everybody jumps up and down and they have the biggest reserve, just like Nigeria would say they have reserve. At the end of the day, what matters is the production. And if the revenue from that production is helping you to build a better country, and not to where people are pocketing the money and deceiving themselves about natural resources. In economics, we call those things unearned income. You didn't do anything for oil to be there, but the thing, you have the capacity to produce it. And when you get
educate about oil. It is on record that America actually produces oil that is, well, shipped in as crude from other countries. So they might be producing up to 5 million barrels, like you said, but these are crude deposits that have been shipped in. And that's why it's interested, it would seem, in Venezuela, because Venezuela does indeed have the world's greatest deposit of oil. That's on the side. But let me come to Mr. Collins-Weke. Mr. Collins-Weke, you do agree that this is about the American dollar now, don't you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There are signs to that effect. I don't have the intelligence that others have, but I mean, with my mortal eyes, I mean, I could see that this revolves all around oil and dollar. Yes, I mean, the risk, you know, I mean, let's look at it this way, because you talked about, you know, how this might, you know, impact other allies. And so the European Union and Brazil, you know, for instance, generally favor multilateral diplomacy, gradual pressure, and negotiated outcomes over unilateral brinkmanship. Now, yes, the intelligence have been there for quite a while. Now, when we talk about diplomacy being a game of patience and, you know, biding your time, actually mobilizing others, I mean, these are no fools talking, you know. So the fact that, you know, a confrontational approach makes coordination harder and, you know, fractures allied messaging is something that, you know, has to be taken seriously here. Brazil in particular, you know, prioritizes regional stability and dialogue, while the EU is cautious about actions that undermine international legal, you know, norms. That said, allies may still cooperate tactically if there is a clarity of purpose and respect for shared processes. So, I mean, we can give up hope. We know how much, you know, the EU treasures the relationship with the United States. The real danger is not disagreement, but loss of trust, which weakens collective leverage. You know, sustainable influence in Venezuela will require consensus, not cohesion like, you know, Trump is actually championing.
Okay. Well, Mr. Collins-Weke, thank you very much. Ejike, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to round up for us now. If there's any addition you would like to make regarding the U.S.-Venezuela situation as we expect Maduro to be arraigned in court today.
No, I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not the president. You know, these things happen, and these things happen because of strategic interest, and they happen because of strategic planning. You know, the way they executed it, the way they carried it out is a lesson for those who study international things to go look at it. The point is that, you know, the sovereignty is beneficial to when the president of a particular country focuses on doing things that are right for their own country.
Do you think the U.S. could do this in Africa?
Well, the U.S., like I said, you know, there was a strike in Nigeria. We don't know whether something else is going to happen and what did Tinubu do. So I don't know whether they're going to do it. Africa is not that strategically important to U.S., no matter the noise people make. The fact is that 54 African countries don't even have any sort of robust military resources to even fight or defend the things with. Obasanjo handed Charles Taylor to The Hague in 2007 or 6. Did anybody say anything? You know, so there have been things happening in Africa, and Africans can't even solve their own problems. But anytime things happen, they jump up and start making noise and cries. Take care of your home, and nobody will mess with you.
Take care of your home. Ejike, I want to say thank you very much. Mr. Collins Weke, thank you very much for having this very interesting conversation with us. Thank you, gentlemen.